Hey, Electrica! Good to see you.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go. All right. Uh, I'm pretty fucked right now. I bet it does, BC. I like that Overwatch 2 is on the list of worst Steam games ever. Hey, Dangster. Like, I haven't even played it, but Roller Coaster Tycoon World, what the fuck?
Well, there you go. That's them. I'm not going to clickbait this. You won't even have to pause the video because I'll keep them up there for a minute. These are the games that, as determined by the website Steam250.com, have the worst ratio of disliked to liked reviews, along with a little bit of math.
Damn.
What's most interesting to me, however,
Okay, he said a little bit of math, but because of his accent, I thought he said meth.
The worst ratio of disliked to liked reviews, along with a little bit of math.
He's saying meth. Come on, it's what it sounds like.
Worst ratio of disliked to liked reviews, along with a little bit of math.
It sounds like meth. Come on. I was in a school band in middle school and high school, and the worst part about them is it's mandatory to do marching. It's pretty cringe.
What's most interesting to me, however, is that every single one of these drew the ire of the PC Master Race for completely different reasons. And even the stories I thought I knew were actually only a fraction of the real issue. Take, for example, Roller Coaster Tycoon
How do you
World.
fuck up Roller
Currently
Coaster
sitting
Tycoon?
at spot number 10 on the list with a 75% negative rating. Roller Coaster Tycoon World is the tragic tale
That's pretty
of a
bad.
publisher desperate to milk a franchise long after the man who made it special had moved on. Saying the words Roller Coaster Tycoon is like casting a spell that sends a 2000s kid back in time to when computer monitors had ears and could kill a man when dropped from a second-story balcony.
Roller Coaster
I
Tycoon
played
was
that as a
from
kid.
that golden age of simulation games where you could slap the word sim on
A
the
friend
front
of the
of
family bought Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I guess he got bored of it because he just gave it to me for free. That was sick.
anything, and it was an instant hit.
SimCity, Sim Tower, Sim On. This list isn't actually
Simon Blackwheel.
as long as I thought it would be.
Of course, your other option was to slap tycoon on the end of a word. And out of all of these, Roller Coaster Tycoon reigned supreme. The first RCT game was developed entirely in assembly by just one man, legendary programmer Chris Sawyer. The upside to a language like assembly is that programs such as, say, a roller coaster management simulator will run exceptionally well on even the
Where's that fucking clip of me? I just reminded myself of that fucking clip. There's so much I need to ask Junie. What happened in court today? Where we go from here? Yeah! That should be the new Wilhelm scream. People should use this sound effect in movies.
shittiest family PC, no matter how many cool Internet Explorer search bars you
Oh my god, look at all of those search bars. Holy shit.
install. That accessibility, along with the game being bundled in frozen pizza boxes, scholastic book fairs, and, just being a fun game, saw it explode in popularity. Chris and his team of artists Simon Foster and composer Alistair Brimble would go on to create Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, the game which
Yeah, you gotta be careful not to install a bunch of extensions like that.
Chris says fulfilled his personal vision for Roller Coaster Tycoon. You see, Chris reads like a true artist to me, one that isn't content to endlessly milk easy sequels for money, but one that moves on when he feels he's done all he can do with a concept.
Although earning $30 million does give you the flexibility to do things like that. Of course, just because the auteur involved with a franchise is finished with it, doesn't mean the ravenous capitalistic conglomerate who publishes it is. And
Atari
here's where the milk
sucks.
from our cash cow starts to turn sour. Ugh.
The development of Roller Coaster Tycoon
People forget how much Atari sucks. Like, they're a pretty shitty company.
3 was passed off to Frontier Development. And while it hasn't aged as well as 2, it was and is still a well-received game. Chris Sawyer would act as a consultant for 3, which was the last time he would be involved with any future release in the series.
Following Chris's departure, the series took a steep dive,
Atari sucks.
like a roller coaster.
8 years after Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, a 3DS game
Hmm? Oh, this is music for, like, an Athena Sykes fan game, okay. I was confused. Alright.
game titled Roller Coaster Tycoon 3D was released, which is neither the third game in the series nor the first 3D
Hey,
Roller Coaster
Pearlhead.
Tycoon game.
Though I suppose Super Mario 64 isn't the 64th one either. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3D was hot ass, but it wasn't nearly as poorly received as the next game. Roller Coaster Tycoon 4 Mobile.
Yes, the
Ah!
official Roller Coaster Tycoon game was a direct-to-mobile game from that particularly awful era of mobile gaming where companies with big IPs realized you could just print money from making lazy, microtransaction-riddled slop like The Simpsons Tapped Out or Family Guy The Quest for Stuff. Sure guys, act all irreverent and satirical all you want, you're still a 2014 freemium game.
It should be noted that Chris Sawyer absolutely despises microtransactions in mobile games.
I have a
Based.
personal disgust for any game which deliberately tries to hook players into feeling they have to pay something extra to continue playing or to take shortcuts. But it's a proven and successful income model.
For some
Wish
reason,
it
people
wasn't.
don't like to see their childhood nostalgia coated in piss and then wrung out on their doorstep. So to placate the gamers who are hoping for, an actual game, publisher Atari announced a new PC game as well. Roller Coaster Tycoon World. This would end up being worse than, just doing nothing, honestly.
The
Oh,
announcement trailer
boy.
received less than favourable impressions
ouch.
from both fans and gaming media alike. These ranged from tactful, such as Roller Coaster Tycoon World's gameplay trailer is tragically bad, to possibly the funniest title I've ever seen for a news article.
No way.
Tragically bad, to possibly the funniest title I've ever seen.
This can't be a real article. There's no way that there's an actual news article just called "New Roller Coaster Tycoon Game Looks Like Shit." Imagine more honest. Imagine like profanity and fucking like article titles, where it's like, how was Hogwarts Legacy? It's shit. Hold on. Oh. Not this, is it? Yeah, that's just a fucking forum. Hey, Tina. Hold on. Ah, I see. This is the article. It says looks terrible, but it's possible the original title was looks like shit. Let's find out. Web.archive.org. We'll go all the way back to the first archive in 2015. Kotaku Australia. No, it says looks terrible. Hold on. Oh well.
Seen for a news article. Now, this has to be one of the worst trailers I've seen for a game. It opens with real footage from a real roller coaster, which baits you into thinking maybe this is a cinematic trailer, or better yet, these are in-game graphics. But after some very dodgy motion-tracked text, it awkwardly transitions into actual gameplay so bluntly that the janitors will be sawdusting your vomit in no time. Here we're finally treated to the real graphics, and it's not good. It's ugly, in fact. The colors are ass, the lighting sucks, half of the shots have shadows and the other half don't.
God, I'm surprised this, like, if you told me this was the 3DS game, I would have believed you. What is this? This looks terrible.
As though they were trying to show off what this game would look like with the settings turned to low, in case you're wondering. I know this was almost 10 years ago at this point, but that doesn't mean shit. The Witcher 3, Bloodborne, Arkham Knight, all 2015 games, all still looking great today. Sure, these were all different genres with larger budgets, so a fairer comparison might be Cities Skylines, which dropped a few days after this trailer and looks infinitely better, despite having to render an entire city and not just a single theme park. The trailer also has that shitty, cheery, hipster Kickstarter music that was endemic at the time. This isn't surprising because despite being published by Atari, it feels like the sort of Kickstarter game that would play off nostalgia to deliver a half-baked early access mess that captures none of the spirit of the original. Atari swapped developers partway through development for reasons they've never disclosed, then swapped developers a second time for more reasons they've never disclosed, which is always a good sign. These 9 circles of development hell pushed the game's release from early 2015 to December of 2015.
After a beta weekend in October of 2015, the feedback, which I can't imagine was good, prompted them to delay the game a second time.
What's with Elliot Rodger in the corner? Also, hey Kiwi. Is that when, like, was this time in 2015 when he, like, shut up that school? "2014 was Elliot Rodger in May?" That's a really weird joke to have.
Time until early 2016. In March of 2016, the game slopped out into early access, which was the 2010s way of saying, we've already spent too much bloody money on this thing, but we can't afford to delay it anymore. Along with a dash of, you can't critique it yet because it's not done.
After being universally mocked for several months, Atari announced that it would officially leave early access on November 16th, 2016. One day before the release of rival park management sim Planet Coaster, which was, you know, a good game. Like an exiled prince coming
people
to
like that
dethrone
one.
their tyrannical father, Planet Coaster was also
We are evacuating Ceres? Fuck. Damn. Ceres has fallen. Is he Kiwi? Yes, he's from New Zealand.
developed by the exact same company that made Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
So, the trailer was bad, but that thing came out 2 years before the game was even released. And early access is essentially like the game's beta, so maybe the final release ended up being half decent. Let's take a look at those reviews.
Bad simulation, bad frame rate, bad graphics, bad communication from the developer, Poor future plans, poor bug fixes, poor coding, poor attempt at pleasing everyone, poor attempt at keeping what an RCT game even is, poor game life it's had due to having 3 separate developers. Well, they don't mention the music at least, so maybe that's okay. The game only has 1 song and 6
Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
variations, which are not that great either. Okay.
Oh, that's from Death Proof. I always wondered where that clip was from that Adam used. I was even like rewatching the amusement video, coincidentally.
Never mind.
The reason I included all that preamble about Roller Coaster Tycoon's history is because it's important to realize just how much Atari botched this beloved franchise. A franchise encased in rock-hard nostalgia, like a mosquito encased in amber.
Don't forget, Chris Sawyer programmed 2 vastly superior versions of this game out of glue and spaghetti sauce by himself with only a talented...
What clip? There's a bit of this character in Death Proof apparently saying, "Never call a Kiwi an Aussie."
artist and composer to help.
If you've
with visuals
seen
and audio,
Adam's amusement
which
review,
is
you've
quite a lot,
seen
actually.
you've seen it.
Almost every review in some way or another says you should just buy Planet Coaster instead.
I don't know if Atari was hoping to edge out Planet Coaster by just releasing a day earlier, as though the audience was so ravenous for a theme park simulator that they'd be willing to settle for a boring, ugly mess instead of waiting one day. Maybe they thought game development's like a race, and whoever gets their one out first is the winner.
Clearly, they forgot the legendary quote from Shigeru Miyamoto, designer and director of 1982's Popeye.
Holy
roller coaster
shit!
Tycoon game will be bad for a very long time, maybe a year. But a good game, a Planet Coaster
I didn't say shit. Quote Shigeru Miyamoto.
game, Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Many kudos. I want to play a game.
I knew I shouldn't have installed that television.
You indulge in my
There's something very cringe about a lot of, like, what's it? There's something so cringe about quoting Miyamoto. So my friends kept making a joke where they'd count down 3, 2, 1, trying to predict my death in Terraria, and then sooner or later I see a nib say 2. That's just great. Did you die afterwards?
life's cravings too often. Now you'll have to prove you can survive without them. If you can go 24 hours without a single bad habit, you can leave. Or you get a $50 gift card.
Ooh!
try.
I'll have the gift card, thank
But
you.
I've got a trick up my sleeve.
You have what?
I've got today's sponsor, Fume. Fume is a little breathable today. Thanks again to Fume for sponsoring this video.
Sport games aren't my cup of tea, but for a huge portion of the
Yeah,
population,
I don't like
they
them
does
either.
be.
These games, for many people, are as deep as they're willing to tip their basketball-shaped toes into the world of gaming. And there's nothing wrong with that, in theory. Unfortunately, the companies behind these games know that. And so not only do they have no incentive to make
You
a
did
better
die.
game,
Awesome.
they actively design hostile, expensive grind fests
That's
that would put a
sick.
Korean titty gotcha to shame.
And those at least have some creamy rotundos for you to enjoy. Unless you mod LeBron, I suppose. Throw in the fact that Take-Two has had exclusivity deals with the NBA since as early as 2011, and you've essentially got a monopoly on an entire genre.
Imagine if World of Warcraft was the only game that was allowed to have elves and dwarves and magic, or Fortnite was the only game you're allowed to shoot a gun in, or Call of Duty was the only game you're allowed to be called a Sure, these examples are a bit more extreme than the reality. Take-Two doesn't own the rights to the game of basketball, but if you're an NBA fan,
I think
the 2K
somebody has
series is the
probably been
only place
called
you're
the
able to play
Epsler
as the
in a
real
game of
players with the real
Uno.
teams that you actually give a shit about.
So, when they release a
Like
buggy,
Xbox
broken mess
360,
of a game that's
Uno.
closer to a credit card scam than a piece of entertainment, your options are either play the game or play nothing. So, what is it about 2K24 on Steam that's especially offensive?
The vast majority of it comes down to slighting the ego of the PC master race. In addition to the gameplay scruples we'll look at in a minute, The PC version of 2K is probably the worst PC version I've ever seen of a game.
Note that I didn't say
Oh
port,
my.
because a port at least implies it's the same game.
The most glaring issue off the bat is that 2K24's Steam release is the last gen version
Number
of the game.
15.
It used to be that games would
Uh-oh,
receive simultaneous release
stinky.
of both last gen and next gen around the time a new console generation came out to bridge that gap, before leaving last gen behind to wither. However, next gen console supply shortages have seen games like 2K receive simultaneous last gen and next gen versions well into the
oops,
current
I didn't mean to
generation's
stream to
lifespan,
YouTube.
and for some bizarre reason have decided that PC